Everybody. Thanks for taking your lunch break with me. Um, I know in the spirit of lunch, I'm going to give you a very full five-course meal today with our presentation about startup success. And so I'm going to jump right in. I'm also going to be bouncing back and forth between a couple of different things, making this a little bit interactive. So bear with me if the tech doesn't agree with me. Zoom is my secondary, Google Meet's my primary, and so we'll make this work the best we can. So hopefully you're all looking at this slide here, 5 steps toward startup success. And today we're going to talk about how to really gain confidence and build your business with complete clarity. So just to kick things off, I want to sort of set the stage of what we're facing as small businesses and startups and entrepreneurs in the current business landscape. So last year, 2023, there were 5.5 million businesses started just in the United States. Now, the sad news is half of those businesses won't make it past their 5th birthday. That's pretty rattling, especially if you're online right now. Either you've started a business, you're in the thick of a business trying to make sure you make it past the 5-year mark. Maybe you've crossed the 5-year mark and are looking for ways to reinvigorate the business. That can be kind of a doom and gloom sort of number. But when you look at the reason that most businesses fail, you go through this list here. A lot of these things, if you really take the time and look at it, it makes a lot of sense. Like, no need. We talk to businesses a lot through Arise and other entrepreneurship support organizations that have a great idea and they seem to get stuck in their head about this is going to be the best thing ever, realize there's not even a need in the marketplace for it. Maybe they don't have the startup capital to make that dream happen. They put the wrong team in place. They didn't analyze the competition correctly. They could have their pricing model that doesn't match the market's needs or preferences. There could be a poor offer in place. They didn't really dial in the offer from the beginning. They have a bad business model just in general that they couldn't really sustain. Poor marketing efforts can play a big part in that. And as a leader of a marketing company, I can attest to that eighth point there. Poor marketing can sometimes work against you, or lack of marketing completely. And the last one, ignoring customers, can also play a huge role when you're stuck in yourself as a business owner and thinking less about the people that you serve on the other end of that relationship. Now, the good news that I want to share with you today is that really over 75% of these failure points are actually avoidable if you pay attention to your journey. And so today, what I want to do is just get right into the thick of things and work through step by step how we can eliminate these different business failures. And along the way, I want to show you a few bits of the process that we're going to get into kind of in a real-time demo of how this would work. As we're doing this, you can think about how it applies to your business, or if you're in a position where you're tossing around ideas with other entrepreneurs, certainly think about how we can get ahead of these fail points before they even happen. So just like Chris said earlier, and when I introduced myself, my name is Jakob Michaelis. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Dave Creek Media, which is a comprehensive full-service marketing agency in Conway, Arkansas. And I'm also the co-founder of a platform called Oxygen, which I'm excited to show you today. It's actually developed specifically to help entrepreneurs. Now, the process that we're going to go through today to save a business has 3 main steps. The first step is to really lean into proven frameworks. So most people, myself included, my hands raised here, I started a business without a business background. I've started several businesses without a business background, and I've actually learned a lot of lessons along the way. I spent a lot of years building businesses or trying to build businesses without any kind of consultation. I didn't even know programs like Arise existed, or the adjacent services like Arise is now, and really just tried to figure it out on my own. Had a lot of hard lessons by doing that. Another path that that I took at one point was to really go deep into these frameworks. There are dozens upon dozens of books around entrepreneurship and building startups and all sorts of things in that genre. And I love learning. I'm a lifetime learner. And so I started really digging into these schools of thought, which can be fantastic, but there was a gap there with understanding how those things apply to my business. So the second part of the process is, once you learn these frameworks, which we're going to cover some today, you want to really personalize that with the clarity that fits your unique business. It's really easy to look at one of these frameworks or a concept and say, yeah, that sounds great in theory, but how does it work for me? My business feels unique, or there's this one thing that I do differently. And just from what I've learned in the past 4 or so years of working with other entrepreneurs, I've seen businesses and startup ideas across an entire spectrum of thought and ideas. And I can't tell you that I've run across a business yet that doesn't at least have a chance to be successful if they put these things in place. So I just want to give you a vote of confidence there. The last thing I want to say on this process is on the step three. When you build out a strategic roadmap by stacking the frameworks together, it helps you cover all aspects of your journey. So for example, you might have heard of, the importance of understanding who your customers are. And you go through that exercise, and that's a one and done thing. But then you forget how that applies to your marketing plan, because now your marketing plan needs to talk about those customers that you went through the trouble of discovering who your ideal customer is. And so when you put these things together and really stack all the frameworks, you'll end up with the best defense, really, or the best toolkit to actually keep your business successful and sustainable and thriving. So with that, I want to jump into the very first step. So the first step here we're going to solve is the no need issue, and that's to actually define your purpose. I also want to say I'm at the Conductor, which is in downtown Conway, Arkansas, and directly out this window right here is a train track. And so if you hear the train, I'll try to talk louder. Maybe the noise canceling works, but I hope you can just bear with me on that. It's the lunch hour rush for the trains as well. Here it comes. Okay. So we're going to define our purpose, which is really key to articulate why you exist, how you operate, and what it is that you actually do. A lot of businesses, they start thinking that they're just going to sell something and they don't really know why. And one thing that I want to share with you is that our good friend Simon Sinek in his book, Start With Why, made it really clear that people are not buying what it is that you sell, they're buying why you exist. So they want to really align themselves with your purpose. And so when you start with your core purpose and actually explain why you do what you do, that can start to build loyalty. Now, once you've established your why, you want to communicate what it is that you offer with clarity and focus that goes directly back to the why. So we're not getting into the nuts and bolts yet. It's just what it is that your business exists for, and then what it is that you're doing that ties directly back to the why. The last part there is to build a strategic approach to how you deliver on your purpose, which creates consistency and alignment. So this is what Simon Sinek calls the golden circle. This is probably one of the key things that a lot of businesses tend to overlook. And like I said, this is the first step. And whenever you see this in the beginning, establishing the issue of no need, it's really important to decide why it is that you're going to do what you do, because business is hard, entrepreneurship's hard, and you have to have a greater purpose besides just being able to push goods. So with that first step in mind, I want to switch over here to Oxygen. Oxygen is really an entrepreneurship's toolkit for building and applying all these frameworks in a very specific manner. So instead of giving you just a 30-second pitch, Oxygen is going to play a key part in today's presentation, because we're going to go through these steps one by one and actually build out a kit for a company. Now you have to bear with me. I love ideas, and I had this idea. We actually homeschool. I've got 3 kids and we homeschool. And I had this idea recently as I've been getting into AI for a number of different reasons about just some different ways of thinking about education and learning. Now, I'm not an education expert, so I don't want to like start the pot with anything there. But again, we're going into the idea stage, right? We're trying to create some kind of potential from our ideas. So I came up with this platform called Journey, and I misspelled it on purpose to make it unique. And it's in the primary care. Let's go to education. It's in the primary, secondary education space, not accounting. And what I wanted to talk about is the idea of an AI driven platform that's specifically for primary education, and it's adaptive. So think about when you're in a classroom, you've got 30 kids, the teacher's doing the best they can to really address all those needs. And you see the benefit of tutoring and how that can play an impact in a child's learning. So I thought to myself, what if AI was able to have a role in really understanding how students think and what they're able to do. And so, of course, we have to start with our purpose. So, why does a platform even exist, right? So, what Oxygen is doing right now is building that purpose, that golden circle for me to give me just a blank canvas, kind of beat the blank canvas, right? So, I can think about that. But what I'm really wanting to do is to get into the detail of this and really check my thoughts, right? So, here's what it came up with. At Journey, we believe that every child deserves a tailored educational experience that ignites their innate curiosity and fosters a lifelong love of learning. Now, it's AI generated. I read a lot of AI copy. I can see where some of this may feel a little AI speakish. But the cool thing is, I could actually go in here to this little pencil if I wanted to edit that and tweak it a little bit. But just at the top level, it really does match with what I'm curious about. How can we actually personalize educational journeys, and how can we figure out how to give that one-on-one tutoring to really steer how someone learns, and figuring out how we can adapt what their pace is to really get them a leg up in education. So that's the why they exist. That's why Journey exists. Now what's the how here that we get into? Well, they leverage the AI-driven technologies to create the adaptive learning pathways. That's really curious. So the platform analyzes performance data and dynamically adjusts the curriculum, ensuring every lesson is engaging. That's really awesome. And then down here at the what, this is just the main thing it does. It's an AI-driven platform for primary education. So it has a suite of tools for personalized lessons plans, interactive learning modules, real-time progress tracking, so on and so forth. So as you can see, I've already got a leg up on getting some kind of manifesting some purpose around this industry or this business here. So what I'm going to do is take this main piece here, copy that. I'm going to create an offer. I'm going to call it the Journey platform. I'm going to paste that in just to give us a high level offer to go with our brand. So remember, every company has an offer of some sort. That was one of the reasons that things can go sideways, is having a bad offer. All right, so we have a purpose now. So we've now solved the no need problem. Let's go on to step two. Step two is a bad model. So I have a cool idea. That sounds interesting, but I've already gone straight to the product, right? The offer. It's the learning platform. Okay, well, there's a whole lot of other stuff that encompasses a business to really make it viable. And so not having the right model in place could go horribly wrong for me if I try to build this thing, spend a lot of money on developing a software platform. I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't know how the channels are going to work. And so if I don't have this tactical plan to really navigate my way into being a successful startup, I'm going to face a lot of trouble there. So our solution here is going to be the Lean Canvas. So Ash Moria developed the Lean Canvas, which is a one-page adaptation of a business model canvas. It has 9 boxes on it, although there's actually 11 major categories inside a Lean Canvas. And what the Lean Canvas does is gives you a way to really see across the spectrum how your business is structured, and it's really easy to digest those different pieces. Another cool thing about it is the way it's laid out in its simplicity. It helps you spot what might be some risky assumptions, where you can figure out, okay, I really need to focus in on validating this idea or this assumption before I go too far, because you're able to really plan that out at a high level. The other cool thing about a Lean Canvas is that you can actually iterate on that and adapt pretty easily, because as you tweak one section, you'll actually end up influencing another section, and it'll help you adjust as you go without having to completely scrap what you're doing in your business model and run that all over again. Now, one thing I told Chris yesterday about these concepts, starting with why, it's an entire book. There's a lot of inspirational, fantastic content that Simon Sinek writes. The Golden Circle is an amazing concept. Ash's book here, Running Lean, again, an entire book. building out a lean canvas could take weeks, if not months, to really fully understand and kind of digest everything around those boxes. But for today, I want to fast track that a little bit, and I want to get into what we can do with Oxygen to help us build a lean canvas just a little bit quicker. So I'm going to choose my brand here. I'm going to find Journey, which is my newest brand. And we're going to build that lean canvas. This is one of those things where I could explain the canvas. I can show you a big empty framework, and you're going to say, that sounds fantastic, Jacob, but how in the world does that apply to a gaming platform? How does that apply to glass pickup? This is the kind of stuff that you can really get that blank canvas syndrome completely beaten and have extreme clarity around what this looks like in a business model as you want to try to understand things. So this is a lean canvas. Now let's jump in just for a second. I like to start on the right-hand side, on the customer side, because in my opinion, you have to focus on who it is that you serve. So we really want to have extreme focus on our customers first, because ultimately our business doesn't exist without customers. So our main customer segments are going to be school students, teachers, parents of those students, and administrators. Totally buy into all those. I probably can't sell directly to students. And so if I was to edit this canvas, I might scratch this first one, unless I'm trying to build marketing around getting them excited about the opportunity. But really my segments are going to be the teachers, maybe the parents, and those school administrators to implement this, across the entire school district. Early adopters, if there are any primary school that is more cutting edge, maybe some of their administrative staff is thinking about being more tech savvy, parents that are really looking at actively looking at ways to help their children, or any kind of schools that have a really robust ed tech program, all fantastic information. Now remember, I just started with an idea. So the fact that I'm able to get some clarity around this, and as much as I deal with other entrepreneurs, I can validate these things pretty quickly. But as I'm digging through each one of these boxes, I could look for things that may challenge my assumptions. So even the problem here, lack of personalized learning paths for students, I can agree with that in certain settings. Difficulty tracking progress in real time. There's quizzes and standardized testing that happens in schools. So maybe that one's not as big of a problem, but we can leave it for now. Limited engagement with traditional teaching methods, again, maybe questionable. Challenges in collaboration, that could certainly exist depending on what the home life looks like. So again, getting into the customer segments here, the problems you have, any alternatives that would exist for your idea. Then you look into the solutions that you're offering, the key metrics that you're going to measure against what performance looks like or success that you have. So engagement levels for the students here, or the cost of acquiring different customers or licenses, how many schools are onboarded. That's a fantastic metric there. The unique value proposition is always a really key thing in your messaging. So being able to really articulate what it is that's unique about your structure, which we'll also get into an alternative of that in just a few moments. But also the high level concept that we have here. Your unfair advantage really helps drive in some of your marketing messaging. So understanding that you can build in some really unique characteristics about your offering to set you apart a little bit. Next up down here is channels. So how are you actually going to sell your product and get in front of the right people? The cost structure here, this could be a big blind spot. So thinking about the no cash issue, if I look at the cost structure and see that these are some of the expenses that I can expect to take on or incur with this platform, I need to be budgeting and planning for that appropriately. Now, on the flip side of that, if I'm looking at the revenue streams, that's a great place to start there in the revenue streams, because I can see where to prioritize the efforts to be able to gain revenue as quickly as possible. So with the lean canvas, as you can see, I don't want to get too much in the weeds. There's a lot to cover, but this gives you a very great overview. It's easy to digest, but also very specific at the same time. And also in Oxygen with the tools, it will give you some next steps to be able to go into. So validating assumptions and prioritizing riskiest assumptions, again, very important to do there, which we're going to cover coming up next. So we've now established the need issue. We've also fixed the model issue. let's get into the marketing issue. So like I mentioned just a minute ago, if you don't know who you serve, you're going to have a really hard time speaking to them. Now, in order to do this, in order to figure out who you serve, we need to create a character that really embodies all of these qualities of your ideal customer. Now, I'm sure you've heard about ideal customer profiles, customer avatars, buyer personas. Anyone that's been in the entrepreneurship space for any amount of time has been exposed to those kind of concepts. Or if you've been in, tried any marketing efforts, figuring out who your target audience is, or however you want to say that. There isn't really what I would say like one leading school of thought here, but the goal with a buyer persona is really trying to understand your customers' goals and pain points and their preferences to figure out if the product market fit even exists. So you have to know who it is that you're serving. And so that way, when you're presenting your solution, they actually can resonate with that. So if you figure out who you serve, your messaging will actually resonate with their deepest desires. And that's going to really increase your chances of conversions. This also gives you the chance to shorten your sales cycle and reduce the churn, because if you focus on just your best potential customers, and that's where you're putting all of your energy and effort into, you have a better chance of converting because you actually understand their deepest desires and needs because you're speaking their language, even if they don't realize it yet. So, how are we going to figure out who our buyer persona is? Back over here on the lean canvas, again, we have these customer segments. What I really liked about that is it gave me some options for buyer personas. I want to just pick this parents of primary school students. That's actually who I am, is a parent of a primary school student, 3 students, in fact. I'm going to jump over to the customer tools. I'm going to launch the buyer persona. So let's go back to our brand and let's put in this persona. So what Oxygen's doing right now is building out a buyer persona. I believe there are 11 major themes inside of a buyer persona, 9 to 11. And what we're going to do is see those exact thoughts, the demographic part of that individual, but also the psychographic part, their goals. And we're going to really start digging out some really good marketing messaging here with that information. So let's see what the engaged parent looks like. Typical parent of a primary school student using Journey between 30 to 45 years old. That's crazy because I'm 42, so I didn't make that up. That's right in the middle. They have at least a bachelor's degree. I can also check that box. Suburban or urban areas, assessing technology as a priority. They work full or part-time. That all looks fantastic. So let's look about activity. So we think about the psychographics things. Actively involved in their child's education, regularly checking homework, attending parent-teacher meetings, engaging in extracurricular activities, researching educational tools, apps, and platforms to provide support for their child's learning. So think about that individual now. Think about that for your business. When you build a buyer persona, you're now going to have I don't want to call it ammunition. That sounds a little aggressive, but it's kind of ammunition. It gives you a story and a narrative to speak to these people. So you know that this parent wants to make sure their child receives a high quality, well-rounded education that prepares them for academic success. If you can give them a personalized learning experience that caters to their unique needs and pace, also fantastic. I think that there's a lot of really unique qualities in here, but just making sure that you're focusing on the demographic information, but also that psychographic stuff too. What's the day-to-day life of this individual? What do they really want to accomplish for their child or for this problem? What's their current belief system? What are their personal values? They believe that education is the cornerstone of their child's future success. Fantastic. What are your ideal customers' personal beliefs? What problems does your ideal customer face on a regular basis? In this case, they're having trouble finding effective educational tools. So there's a lot of detail around this. Be sure and personalize these things toward your buyer persona, because you can use this information, whether it's in marketing messaging, whether it's in sales calls, whether it's in your onboarding process, your ongoing process with existing customers, being able to talk about that information here to really support their needs. If you have people that are going to give you objections, or things that they're concerned about, you can actually get ahead of that in your conversation by explaining that you understand what their concerns are, what they might be afraid of, what they've tried that hasn't worked in the past. You could give them answers to certain objections. This gives you um, a really clear story around when you're having those conversations. What are people already thinking in their head that they may not ask you, but could actually be useful? So the buyer persona is a critical step in being able to solve that poor marketing problem. The next thing I want to talk about is listening to your customers. So we also want to be able to validate what we think. So I may have a buyer persona that is very clear, but I might not know, like for now, other than myself, so a sample size of one, I haven't actually asked anybody if what I think is accurate is actually factual for them. And so, Give Constable's book, Talking to Humans. I know that the Arise program is really big on talking to humans, doing customer discovery, being able to listen to your customers, potential customers and current customers is a critical step in making sure that you're getting ahead of the game. So when you do this, you want to be able to think about how you craft your questions to uncover their real needs and compare that to your hypotheses and assumptions. What you don't want to do is ask leading questions, and we'll go into some of the details on what customer questions look like. But you want to be able to have authentic conversations where you understand what that person's current experience is, what struggles do they face, what have they tried before. Um, Being able to ask them open-ended questions really help them give you the information that you need to be able to test out what your theories are. And so when you're doing this, you can actually test the ideas early. So you can save yourself a lot of time, energy, financial investment by focusing on the right things versus trying to solve a problem that either doesn't exist or a problem that not enough people care about, or worse yet, a problem that people might care about but don't care enough to pay money to solve, right? There's always that X factor of, yeah, that's a problem. I do agree it's a problem, but I'm not really willing to pay for it. And so as a business owner, that's going to be the three strikes, right? I need to be able to have someone open their wallet and want to pay for that. So when you're doing this customer questions exercise, you can actually show that your product is more customer centric, and that helps you increase your loyalty and advocacy because you're tailoring your product development cycles to exactly what customers are talking about. So let's jump back over to Oxygen, back into the customer section. Now that we have a buyer persona, let's ask some of those customer questions. So far, I mean, it's been, we're maybe 30 minutes or so into this journey together. I'm already crushing all these issues why businesses fail. But what I want to emphasize is you cannot do this in a vacuum. I could go through this whole exercise and feel 10 out of 10 like I'm going to crush this. And if I never talk to another human to validate these things, if I don't talk to maybe a business consultant to say, does this lean canvas even make sense? It seems a little wonky. Then we're going to have a lot of struggles there. So I want to make sure that we're really clear on what it is that we're producing. So we have our customer questions put together. Let's go and open this up and see if it works. And again, I'm making all this in real time. I started today with an idea, just so you know, I haven't pre-tested this exact idea or concept. So the thing about customer questions, I have a little bubble here just to give you a frame of reference. This is your litmus test. These may not always be 10 out of 10 the right questions, but it gives you a start. So they have to be clear, open-ended, so you can't have a yes or no question, completely unbiased and problem-focused, avoiding leading the respondent towards your response. What happens in customer discovery that I see happen more times than not, you want so bad for your idea to be validated that you will ask questions that will lead people down the path to tell you what you want to hear. You might say, don't you feel like your child's education is kind of struggling a little bit with the current model? You may get yeses, you may get nos, but you're actually planting that seed. That's a leading question, right? Versus right here, number one, tell me about a typical day of learning for your child. So what do you experience? What does your child tell you about in that learning process? What are some of the challenges that you face in supporting their education? So we're asking questions that are open-ended. When you apply this to your business, think about what kind of questions can you ask your customers that aren't biased towards your solution, but actually get into the things that they need to understand. So, why is it that recycling is important to you? And I'm picking on the glass recycling company. We've spoken several times, so you have to apologize me for calling you out there. But it's trying to get through that balance of really wanting to understand your customer and not trying to steer people into your perception of what the best solution is. Because if you do that, you're going to have a skewed response, and it's going to go wrong because you may not actually have enough buy-in versus letting people tell you exactly what their problems are, and now you're tailoring your solution to them. You're giving the solution that they asked for right back to them, which again increases the advocacy and that customer loyalty. All right, so we've gone through four major steps already. I know it's been a crash course, and I hope that you're keeping up. I know that Chris has got this recorded so we can go back and review it. My encouragement is to step through each of these very, very intentionally for your own business. Be sure and study those concepts, find out where your gaps are, and see how you can move forward, where the biggest attention needs are. So, step 5, this is kind of a twofer because we're going to eliminate competition and we're going to eliminate poor offers in this one tool. So when we can actually reinvent your offer from just what status quo is in your market, stand out from the crowd, the competition that you have, and be truly remarkable, you will eliminate competition and you'll create an offer that resonates with people that are willing to open their wallet and actually pay you money. So again, we've seen bits and pieces of this so far all along. We know how to stand out from the crowd because we know who we're speaking to and we know what they truly want. So we're going to speak directly to them. That's going to make them feel like we're a unique solution to them. We also know how to build an offer that speaks directly to the needs of that individual. And in fact, our lean canvas has given us some of the little bits and pieces about how to stand out with a unique value proposition and that high level concept and the unfair advantage. But we're going to take it a step further with Seth Godin's Purple Cow Theory. So if you haven't read the Purple Cow Theory book, it is a fantastic framework and school of thought around what it takes to really be remarkable. So the high level concept here is imagining you're driving down the road, you look over to the side of the road, and in the field you see a lot of cows in a pasture, and you kind of look a little bit closer, and in that field you see a purple cow. That purple cow is going to get your attention. It's truly unique. It's standing out in the field of brown cows, and there's something remarkable about it. And you're probably going to get to your destination and tell somebody about the purple cow that you just saw in the pasture a few miles back. How do you turn your business into that purple cow? So what Seth Godin does is gives you really, in his book, he gives you a lot of kind of introspective things to chew on and reflect on for what it really takes to be unique in your business to eliminate competition. And if you can find that spark of uniqueness, that truly remarkable factor, it actually will increase the virality of your idea because you're going to want to boost social buzz and drive organic growth. So whenever your idea is that remarkable, people can't help but talk about it. You don't have to try to create, a viral social post or do something that's so off the wall that doesn't actually align with your business. There are ways to look at this and brainstorm about how it really helps you stand out from your competition. The cool thing about it too, and this is another book reference, I don't have on my list here today. There's a book called Crossing the Chasm. I think it's Jeffrey Moore is the author on that. And what Jeffrey Moore says is your offer in the beginning, it has a product life cycle In the very beginning, you have innovators that are always looking for the next best thing. They're actively on the hunt for the latest and greatest, coolest thing. And you have early adopters who are really eager to try something new. And after that, there's a massive chasm where you really have to show your stuff in product development to reach the early majority, late majority, and laggards. Again, whole other concept, whole other discussion there. But when you have a purple cow, you create a spark that your business can jumpstart from. You can get the attention of the innovators and the early adopters that you need to support your idea to bring you through into those next steps. So with that, we're going to jump over into the offers section. Let's go build some purple cows. The cool thing about this area here, it's really just a brainstorming session. It's going to spit out about 5 different options. Some of them may be dead on. Some of them may not be that unique, but it's something to start with. And so I would say the purple cow in your offer creation, use it judiciously. If you know your market because you've been studying it, that's fantastic. So the things that it thinks should be unique, if you think it's a little bit status quo or you've seen others doing it, that's probably a signal that you should at the very least consider working that into your product. Let's take a look at these ideas. Augmented reality learning modules. So we know that AR with Apple Vision and Quest, a lot of these headsets are getting popular. So AR could be a fantastic way to get into a full immersive experience. I think that's a fantastic purple cow. An AI learning companion. So what's interesting is we actually use a tool that, excuse me, that has a component of an AI assistant that is helping monitor the answers and giving real-time feedback. So this virtual tutor idea, not completely unique, but probably a critical piece of that puzzle there for this new platform. Gamified learning tracks, fantastic way to keep the students engaged. Parent-teacher collaborative dashboard overcomes the trouble of getting parents and teachers on the same page about student progress. Learning insights through AI analytics, great way for those parents and teachers that want to see actual progress and how this streamlines and accelerates those learning paths. Again, these are 5 great purple cows. This is just a demo. I don't want this to steer your ideas, of what your platform is or your business, but I want you to just see the point here of how you can take your initial start of an idea and do something completely out of left field or something that no one else in the marketplace is doing currently so that you can actually think differently about what you do and create some buzz around your product or your offering. Okay, so with that, we've eliminated 75% of the reasons that startups fail. And we did that all in about 35 to 40 minutes. I know that is a ton of information to digest. So with that, I'm going to pause for a little bit. I wanted to save some time for some Q&A. I'm happy to get into specific use cases. I wanted to say here, just real quick before we get into questions, that you can access the feedback of someone like myself or a whole slew of SMEs in the Arise program. That's going to be that business support that I didn't have for over a decade in my entrepreneurship journey. And if you want to dig into some of the details about how to do this for yourself and really crystallize some of these ideas for your business, oxygen.ai is a great place to go there to test these tools out. I've got another train coming, which is probably my signal that it's Q&A time. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing, I think, for a second and let Chris jump back in so we can get on with some of the Q&A.
All right, I'll let everyone know if you want some easy access to those links. I dropped in the chat that there is our digital resource library at arisearkansas.org/digital-resources. You can access Oxygen from that page. You can download the full ebook of Running Lean, the full ebook of Talking to Humans. So lots of stuff worth checking out there. And like Jacob mentioned, if you really love the SME network and the idea behind that, if you enroll in Arise, what we do is we connect you to a back end page of the website where you can book directly with lots of different experts. So if you put in an application, we'd love to have you meet and connect with them. So now let's roll to some questions. What might you be wondering after looking at these 5 steps that you'd want to ask Jacob? Anyone want to jump in first? Or you can drop it in the chat and I'll read it.
Hey, Christopher, could I ask a question?
Yeah.
This is Tim. Jacob, I signed up for Oxygen a good while ago. I forgot my password, but I went back in and re-used it. You got a really good tool. I really like it. And I've used Lean Canvas. I put in the chat with fourth graders. People say, but they're only 10 years old, but they still used it and they learned to use it and it helped them distill their thoughts. A tool I've been using with some entrepreneurs is called Orbit Jetpack.
Mm.
It's based on Bill Aulet's book, Disciplined Entrepreneurship, and it's pretty complicated. You're probably familiar with it. You can get access to it, maybe. But it's really in depth and it goes through a lot. And what I like about Oxygen is I'm not having to print out 20 pages, you know. It's more concise to me when I've used it. So I applaud you for that. And I too have been an entrepreneur and I didn't have these resources and it's like nobody wants to tell your baby's ugly, you know. And but what I've been teaching a lot is to tell them don't get sold on the solution, get sold on the problem.
That's right. Oh, well, hang on a second. Let me move my head. Is this backwards? What did that say? Love the problem, not the solution. I'm
Yeah.
at the AIC down here in Conway. That's stuck on the wall. So yeah, we're with you.
Well, great tool. And I'm working with Economics Arkansas now, and I think it'd be a great tool for some of the teachers to use. Also, I saw a thing from um, let's see, Rachel talking about former teacher. I think this would be really good for them to use for their classroom.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that, Tim. And I think part of it too is, the best way to think about this, whether it's Oxygen is it's an assistant, right? Like literally the break apart is auxiliary support using generative AI. So don't think about it as, it's going to just solve all your problems because you could you could go into some other AI tool and tell it to spit out content, and it's not going to have necessarily the soul of what you want to put into it as a business owner because you can build a lot of cool ideas and get into that good idea trap. Really getting to these 5 steps, as I've learned again in the past 4 years, and what we teach in the Raj program, it's really being methodical about those processes and the stuff that Tim that you teach as well, to students. It's really a matter of not getting hung up on that next step, but being able to utilize it because momentum, to me, momentum is what matters. And if I can make a step, even if it's a small misstep, or if I feel like I'm at least halfway educated going in the right direction, I feel more confident about what I'm going to be doing going forward. So yeah, very, very, very great feedback.
Jacob, I had a quick question for you. I know that we often talk with a lot of our entrepreneurs about your unique value proposition, your UVP. Is that a similar concept to the purple cow, or how would you differentiate between the two of them, or are they one and the same? Just kind of curious what you think.
Yeah. So, the lean canvas hints, it has a unique value proposition section. I have a way of crafting your UVP, which is a whole other school of thought. Again, don't want to go off on a tangent today. You guys have had enough framework thrown at you for one session, but really figuring out that the people that you serve and how your solution, the problem that you solve, marries together is going to create a unique value proposition. So your lean canvas is going to give you a little bit of that information where you figure out what is it that's truly unique about what it is or about what you're offering. The purple cow takes it a little bit. I don't want to say it takes it. It's not further. It's just adjacent. So
Mhm.
you can have a unique value proposition, but if you um, if you handle it the same way as everybody else, it may not resonate. It may not stand out enough, right? You could have a really great idea, but your execution is the exact same way as everybody else, or you put it in the wrong model, and that could work against you. So having your UVP, that's unique in the industry, but then the way you execute on it, that purple cow is what makes it stand out. So it's like a compliment to the UVP, not necessarily standing in place of, if I'm explaining that very well.
Yeah, that helps. That helps. That's good.
Awesome.
Anyone else have a question that they want to throw at Jacob? Give him some
Yeah,
curveballs. Like he's
I
a
well, I can
subject matter expert here. Like,
I can see here's a good one. So Christina asked, how many ideal customers should you try to create? Ideal customers, I think, are interesting because you don't want to serve everybody, but you also might feel restricted if you only pick one ideal customer. I would tend to look at, if you're just starting out, anywhere between 1 to 3, but there's a lot of asterisks on going up north of 3, because you could have industry specific lanes if you're in a B2B space. You could have different customer segments. So maybe you want to start, maybe your ideal customer in a B2C, business to consumer environment, is um, higher net worth. Maybe they're middle income. Maybe they're rural instead of suburban. But you could have variations where you could still adapt your solution depending on who that individual is. And so if you're just starting out, at least having one ideal customer completely nailed is going to get you momentum. Again, momentum being the key word. Beyond that, you could expand to residential and businesses, like residential or commercial. If you're service based, you could go into industry vertical and service vertical. So like if I'm a marketing agency, I could go into social media as a service vertical, but I could go into the a vertical of, say, healthcare, which is an industry. Okay, well, that could be two different buyer personas, because the social media vertical may not be industry specific, but the industry vertical may not be service specific. So there's a way you can really diversify your ICPs or your buyer personas, but at least starting with one that you've nailed down and so detailed that nobody could, it's undeniable. It's going to get you really off on the right start. Let's see. Joshua says, how might we best discover industry standard go-to-market strategies? So Oxygen on the paid plan actually has a go-to-market strategy tool. It's 10 steps on how to go to market. I think that typically, again, it involves a lot of research. So you're going to want to figure out your customer segments, what your offer is going to be for getting into market, what those initial offers are going to be, what your marketing channels are going to be, what that messaging should be, how you're going to roll it out. If there's a demo or a pre-release or early adopter, there's a lot of different ways to build out that go-to-market plan. If it's just ongoing, like go-to-market, not from scratch to live, there's a whole other way of developing out your sales cycle in that go-to-market space. But it's a combination of those things, right? So you'll see a lot of references into, you have to know the market to begin with, whether that's the buyer persona, the geographical region, location, et cetera. You got to know what your offer is going to be. You have to know the channel, which the Lean Canvas talks about, the channels that you're going to promote your offer on. You have to know what the rollout's going to be for that, and the timing for that as well, and how you actually gauge success. Again, back to the Lean Canvas, those key metrics are showing what success looks like. So being able to dial that in and say, once we actually roll out, are we getting traction or not? So there's about, again, 9 or 10 components there in a standard go-to-market strategy that you would be able to adapt the pieces that to build that plan out.
all right, you seen the next one, Jacob?
Yes, yeah, Shannon, finished your presentation on AI. Yeah, thanks for coming to that. Fantastic. Yeah, again, so the oxygen.ai is the address there. You can sign up for free. The tools that we covered today, those 5 tools, are completely free in the platform, and then to get the other access to the other 15 tools, there is a paid version there. What's the next code for determining go-to-market strategy,
Hey,
company or
sorry,
customers?
sorry, I don't know, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you said about where those tools are at? Where can I get those exactly?
Yeah, Oxygen, AUXIGEN .ai. I'll pull that screen up again.
AUXIGEN.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. Um,
As far as the next codes go, I think, it's going to depend I mean, you can search those online, and it'll give you a full list of the standard next codes for all your different industries. And once you drill into there, it just depends on how detailed you want to go. Like, is it going to be, you know, healthcare, or is it going to be medical research, pharmaceuticals, et cetera, et cetera. So that'd be more of an online search regarding how to find out what your specific customer codes are. That does help in audience targeting for like paid ads, for example, or to get mailing
Okay, yeah.
lists. Yeah.
And it's AI?
Oh, I'm sorry. The Oxygen, yes, oxygen.ai.
No, I was meaning it, and that's done with AI, like
Oh no, you can just Google. I
similar
mean,
to like how Facebook, like like just in category with their ads that they have, like
Mhm.
like it's gonna give me all the type of research or kind of the knowledge that they have in getting me the right customers. Like for instance, I'm starting a cleaning business, you know.
Mhm.
Main reason is I like cleaning it. I'm good at it, but also it's low startup and potentially can have a large outcome.
Yeah. So yeah, so Joshua, for that, I mean, again, I would probably just personally, I would go to Google, and so if it's cleaning, you could say, is it residential or commercial? If it's commercial, is it like, property management, commercial cleaning, like office spaces? Is it multi-unit apartments that you wanted to try to get in? So trying to figure out who your target is there. If it's just general residential consumers, you're probably going looking for a NAICS code is probably going to be a distraction, because you don't have to get that detailed. If it's more business focused, then
Yeah,
you
that's
could drill into that. But then I would just go on Google and look for a NAICS code directory and just scroll through those, and you can do searches based on keywords, and it'll give you the detailed codes for those different segments.
oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep.
all right. We're coming right up on 1 o'clock. I'll let you guys get back to your day. Thank you so much, Jacob, for presenting today. We've gotten some stuff in the chat, thanking you, and people saying how great a webinar it was, that they really enjoyed the content. If you guys want to see more content like this, make sure you like and follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook at Arise, and we will keep you up to date. Also, make sure you sign up for the program so that you can get access to Jacob and all of our other subject matter experts as well. Y'all have a great rest of your day.